and welcome to the Sunday Guardian show with Joyeeta Basu. I'm Joyeeta Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian newspaper published from New Delhi. Today in my show, I'm going to discuss with Mr. Pathikrit Payne the latest promise that has been made by Rahul Gandhi about wealth distribution. And Pathikrit is a geopolitical analyst with strong interest in political economy and India's economic transition. Pathikrit, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Richard.
Pathikrit, what is this that the Congress, or rather Rahul Gandhi, is insisting on talking about? This wealth redistribution. When you are looking at the Congress manifesto, the first point, they are talking about socio-economic survey of the nation. Now, the thing is that I guess, it is basically not explicitly saying about conducting a wealth survey of the nation and redistributing wealth, but Rahul Gandhi is being very vocal about it, and so is Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. So what exactly is this plan all about? What can it mean for the country?
So thank you first of all, Joyeeta, for inviting me. Wealth distribution is a typical Marxist communist concept. And there is no two-way about it. I think some of the things that are mentioned in the manifesto of Congress, what I'm aware of in some of his speeches, he has mentioned about the word wealth redistribution. And then today, what Sam Pitroda talked about, a 50% inheritance tax that you give away, that is a very dangerous proposition. And let me tell you, these models have already been implemented in some countries in the past, and they're all gone as economies. And these communist concepts today are coming back through some other channels, but they are devastating. And let me give you an example. The country called Venezuela, which was probably one of the richest economies of Latin America in the early 2000s, introduced this whole concept of nationalization of assets, then wealth redistribution in terms of everything will be done by the state. Everybody will be given those allowances. Everybody's responsibility is that of the state, and nobody, would have to do anything else separately. So they were entirely banking on what? They were banking on the oil resources of Venezuela, which is one of the biggest in the world. And nobody was doing any manufacturing, anything else. Everything was getting imported based on that oil company of Venezuela, which was also nationalized. Till the time the price of oil was high, it was fine. But the moment the price of oil collapsed, the economy went for a toss. And today, if you look at Venezuela, it's an economy where in the recent past, the inflation had gone up to 2.5 lakh percentage. It is a country where you would have photographs, it's available in Google, where you have currency notes being put up, piled up like trash. Because this is exactly what happens when you destroy your innovation, where you put up very high tax rates. Secondly, there's another example I'll give you, it's Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe also actually implemented a concept of wealth redistribution. First of all, they ousted their white minorities who were controlling the departmental stores, the whole farm, business. Today, if you look at the peak inflation rate of Zimbabwe in 2008, after they have redistributed wealth, was 79.6 billion percentage in 2008. 79.6 billion percentage. It went up to 89.7 zillion percentage, which is 10 to the power 22. Today, they have $1 billion Zimbabwean dollar currency notes. Even with that, you won't even get 2 bread when you go to the shop. So if you look at this whole model, that actually led to collapse of Soviet Union also. It is not just about Zimbabwe or Venezuela. Fundamentally, these things have already been practiced in this country in the past. So in the 1970s, you had peak tax rate of 97%. If you had 97% peak tax rate, either nobody will innovate in this country, they will either leave, and that was the time when brain drain was at its highest in India, or people will resort to the black economy because they will not disclose their original income. So practicing this socialistic concept of land redistribution, wealth redistribution, and everything that we used to do by looking down at wealth creators, that is also happening today. Wealth creators are being looked down wealth creators are being denigrated. And eventually what happened? We had brain drain, and by the time 1991 came, we were on the verge of bankruptcy. We had to beg to the... Yeah, please.
Don't you think, given that this is history, I mean, this is actually water under the bridge. This is that, I mean, the Congress, it has happened in Congress's time. Given that the economic liberalization was brought in by a Congress government, shouldn't Congress as a party, as Rahul Gandhi, as the de facto leader of the party, wouldn't he have had better sense not to talk about, such basically Marxist concepts? This is the bedrock of what Marxism is all about. You have to distribute wealth, but I think what is happening right now is that we're talking about distributing wealth, but there is no generation of wealth. So don't you think he should have been a little more, wary of whatever he is going around saying?
You're right, and frankly speaking, I think there was this presumption that if I say this to the have-nots, they will be very happy and I'll get more votes. That era is gone today. Today you have 25 crore people who have been brought out of multidimensional poverty. Today there are crores of micro enterprises who never had access to institutional funding because they never had a bank account. They have a bank account, they are getting the Mudra loan. Today, aspirations have changed in this country. They don't want to sit at home and just get a little bit of crumbs that are thrown at you. And let me tell you, this concept that he's talking about, or what Sam Pitoda talked about, these are typical World Economic Forum concepts. There's a World Economic Forum advertisement which says by 2030, you would have, no privacy and no property. And let me tell you one thing, the Western capitalist models, Western capitalist, these lobbies, or some would call them the deep state. There are these syndicates who have always, promoted Marxism, socialism in developing countries for the simple reason they don't want the developing countries to emerge as competition for them. They would rather create an ecosystem in a country like India where wealth creators get frustrated and eventually go to United States to create wealth for them, rather than have an India where you are almost a $4 trillion economy. You have an ecosystem which is the third largest in the world for startups. You are talking about deep tech research. You're talking about creating semiconductors. You're talking about aspirations of millions of young people. 8 crore people have taken Mudra loan and started their own enterprises. So they don't want that concept to be here. And one of the reason why they don't want, and it's very clear now, if you see some of these narratives that are run by the Western publications, which are so denigrating towards India, one of the reason is, if we had grown as per their directives, as per their preference, they would not have a problem with this. But because we are talking about being Atmanirbhar, because we are not importing vaccines when they want us to import, because we are not anymore buying defense equipment as per their requirement, but rather talking about creating self-reliance, because we are defying their Western concept of who to be called an enemy, because we have defied their sanctions on Russia and bought oil. So ideally, they don't want the status quo to go. So they would always, for a developing economy which is becoming a voice of the global south, will try to create disruptions in the ecosystem which is promoting creativity within the country, and would rather prefer an ecosystem where that country is completely, if not completely destroyed, merely remains as a market, struggling, and the creators would rather go to USA and create wealth for them. And this is, I think, that is coming back in terms of what is being packaged again as redistribution of wealth. Imagine if you, and you rightly mentioned this, if you do not respect wealth creators, then what you end up distributing is not wealth but poverty. And that is exactly what has happened with West Bengal. They talked about land redistribution, they talked about workers' rights, and eventually they ended up creating so much of humiliation for businessmen there that 60,000 factories got closed. And today I keep on saying everywhere that every city of this country has a small Bengali community. Who are those people? who had better ideas, who were aspirational, who left Bengal.
Yes.
Now, if the leftist idea of wealth redistribution had been so good, then left would have been ruling the world instead of vanishing the way they have vanished today, like the dinosaurs. So they are repackaging, and that's why Prime Minister talked about the word urban Naxals. And this is dangerous for this country, because and then again one thing that Joyeeta ji, which is again dangerous, जिसकी जितनी आबादी उसकी उतनी हिस्सेदारी.
जितनी आबादी उतनी हक उतनी भागीदारी. That's what he has been saying.
That means the Parsi community is 0.1% of the country's population. They may have created hundreds of billions of dollars of wealth for the country. But if it is so that their population is 0.1%, so they should only have 0.1% of the wealth. The rest should be distributed.
Yeah, now if you're looking at it, even the Muslim community, which, I mean, it comes across as that he is kind of trying to attract the Muslim community towards the party, Rahul Gandhi. So even the Muslim community, if they're 14, 15, 16, whatever be the percentage of their population right now, that way even they are being deprived. Because if you are going into this concept of jitni abadi utni haq ya utni bhagidari, but at the same time they are also talking about minorities of the first rights, don't you think the message is very confusing?
Very interesting question. So on one hand it is being talked about that there will be socio-economic survey, survey of your properties. That means so. But at the same time it is being said that personal laws will not be touched, which means Muslim inheritance will be as per Muslim laws, Muslim personal laws. But your inheritance will be as per where 40-50% can be taken over. And today Sam Pitroda literally justified it.
No, I mean, Congress is saying no, we are not going to do that.
Now they are giving.
Yes.
Now they are giving this.
Really
they're trying to do some, firefighting. But I think the pigeon is out of the hat. The rabbit is out of the hat. So on one hand you say, see, I have nothing or nobody has anything against the Muslims of this country. Exactly. Prime Minister talked about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, right? Now when it comes to Mudra Yojana, when it comes to vaccines, when it comes to Jan Dhan Yojana, when it comes to Awas Yojana, when it comes to Swachh Bharat, when it comes to Ayushman Bharat, is there any example in this country that anybody has been discriminated against just because that person is a Muslim? You will not get. In fact, most of the beneficiaries are Muslims. So you should look at it purely from the perspective of giving the support system to the people who are economically underprivileged. But the moment you start looking at it from the prism of religion, then it is dangerous. Then it is very dangerous.
It's divisive. I mean, it's really divisive.
Very divisive. And secondly, is it not true that Manmohan Singh made that statement? Is it not true that Sachar committee came and they wanted to have reservation within the OBC community for the Muslims on the basis of religion? Is it not true that the National Commission for Backward Caste mentioned something about Karnataka, where the entire Muslim community is being projected as a backward caste?
Yes.
Now, caste reservation is not an economic issue on socio-economic issue, but it's something else. So on one hand, you allow conversion by saying that now you are equal because you are a Muslim. But then you say, okay, you are backward, now I'm giving you the same OBC quota, which is for us. So there are these discrepancies. I think the communication messaging of Congress have completely got exposed. And let me tell you this. I mean, how is it possible that India will become a $10 trillion economy in the next 1 decade if you start looking down at wealth creators? And this used to happen in the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
When if in the Bollywood movies you would see anybody who was rich was projected as a smuggler, as a black money hoarder, that was a projection. That is how you denigrated everybody. And they left India. So are you trying to create that ecosystem again? So that will lead to what? Please.
Yeah, no. Basically, what it comes across, this totally, as you also mentioned at the beginning of the program, these are completely discredited ideas that have discredited, and we have seen, I mean, where is Soviet Union now? There's no Soviet Union. So to even think, just for would you say that this is actually election rhetoric, or Rahul Gandhi is kind of prone towards these leftist thoughts, so he actually means them?
I'm sure at 55 he understands what he's talking about, and he believes in what he's doing. I don't think he's naive, but my concern are the people who are behind him, who actually are putting it forward. That is so that
do you think there's a problem there? Do you think there's a problem there?
Of course, look at the Hindenburg report which came out, and what was the statement of George Soros? George Soros says that, I'm not paraphrasing, that now he hopes that there will be an democratic uprising against Narendra Modi. So that was the objective. Eventually, the Hindenburg report did not prove anything, but that was the objective. And interestingly, look at this, the same elements who are looking down at wealth creators, instigated by some external elements presumably, are the same ones who are denigrating your culture as well. They have a problem with Ram. They have a problem with the temple, because if you are culturally ingrained in your country, then it is very difficult to make you a wokist. If you are sanskari, if you have your own sanskar, then it is very difficult to isolate you from the family. Then it is very difficult to make you a commodity who will just survive on consumption, because they just want you to consume, and completely filled with frustration and hatred, for the society, for wealth, for those who have money, or the government. They just want you to be, and that's the way it is among those some of those elements, not all, in JNU, who were celebrating when Maoists kill our Jawans.
No, but to be a consumer also you need money. And how can you become so how will even... No, and when you're especially talking about, say, World Economic Forum, you talked about, and that, they do not want us to grow. But the fact is, you see, if India is growing, India is also a big market for them. Until and unless India is a big market, I mean, even the West does not help these business market forces.
Yeah, so Joyeeta, it's like this, like 140 crore people, till the time they wear clothes, they eat 3 times a day and have a bit of aspiration, it's a big market. Their problem is, today it's not just aspiration to buy products, but also to create the products, but also to become entrepreneurs, not just look up. So if you look at the narrative that you admire American entrepreneurs, you look at American entrepreneurs as philanthropists, but you look down at your Indian entrepreneurs. You look down at Adani and Ambani. You praise Bill Gates, you praise Elon Musk, which is fine, I have no problem with that. But you look down at Adani and Ambani.
Yeah.
Now that is problematic. So their problem is, he is not just becoming a consumer, but he is also trying to produce what he is trying to consume, or what he wants to consume. So at one point of time, what happened? They outsourced jobs because it was profitable for them because of lower cost. Today, they have realized that now that the trades have been learned today, you can't even manage the organizations without the Indian CEOs. At one point of time, they were only, taking people on an hourly rental basis. Now, today, they have realized that those who became CEOs, it has inspired a new generation of industrialists and entrepreneurs who are inspiring the next generation to be like that, where the Tatas or the Reliance are not only buying foreign companies, but has inspired millions to take the path of entrepreneurship, and they are no more interested to work for a foreign company. I mean, forever. If you go to any college, Joyeeta, or a university, majority of the people, majority of the youngsters, they have to start their life with a job. But everybody has an aspiration someday that I will someday do something of my own.
Yes.
Maybe 50% will fail. But everybody has that aspiration. Today's aspiration is not what used to be 30 years back. The middle class thinks I get a job and I'll be happy with that alone. Today, the dimension of aspiration is fundamentally altering. And where we are talking about development of resilient supply chains, whether we are talking about defying Western sanctions, that is not something. So if you look at this, very simply, the projection from the West is this, that the West knows the best what is good for the rest. Don't think. And that is where Jaishankar ji came up and stated that Europe must stop come out of this mentality that Europe's problems are the world's problem. But the world's problems are not Europe's problem, which means they tell you, look, this is war on terror, go and fight. We have to fight. But when something happens in your country, they will call it a gunman, not a terrorist. They can kill 500,000 children. If you use coal, it is creating climate change problems. But if they, trigger war after war in areas, but it is almost like every bomb that falls is actually as if helping in cleaning the environment rather than polluting it. As if.
So what you are saying is that Rahul Gandhi is just playing into the hands of these forces. Number one.
Well, okay. I believe he believes and he's convinced with those ideas that India should have high tax rates, because Sam Pitroda said that middle class should have a larger heart and pay tax, and today he says that 50%
has been saying.
So middle class should pay up. Middle class should pay more taxes. Wealth creators should be denigrated. And then whom are you giving it for? And then you say certain minorities, they will have their own personal laws. They will have their own things as per their religion. What are you trying to create out of this country? Are you trying to create a $10 trillion economy, or you want to become a Venezuela? Because these ideas have been tested and they have all failed. Failed to that extent that left has vanished.
Yeah.
I think the Congress still believes that if I dole out money, I will be popular. This is that simple populism that they followed for a long time, inspired by some. Today, that thing is gone. Today, people have their own self-esteem. Joyeeta, I have traveled to places where when you create a toilet, or when you ensure that the house is in the name of the woman, what happens? You are giving him and the family dignity. Self-esteem is very important, and not just giving out some crumbs. And when you become a society or an economy like Venezuela, or you see what is happening in the entire Latin American belt or Mexico, where your entire life is run on, unless you're part of those narcotic syndicates, you are nobody, because you can't survive. The biggest victims of a situation like that are women. Are women who suffer. Exploitation starts when your economy fails. So what do you want to?
Please finish.
The fundamental thing is that I think Congress has not been able to evolve with time. I think they still believe that if I create some populistic... Today, people have become intelligent.
Yeah, it's all about giving doles.
It's about giving doles. Yeah.
If
From
you
the
remember
electoral perspective.
That is something we were. It's okay. I'll just mention quickly. If you remember, National Advisory Council during Manmohan Singh's government for 10 years, they were the ones who were ruling the roost, and it was all about. They were the people who were formulating policy, and it was all about giving doles. So frankly, even if you are looking at schemes like, say, for example, MG Narega and all, they did not really work out, in spite of the fact that was the sole purpose of it. I would say even the Congress ruled states had the worst record when it came to MG, that Narega implementation. Now, since we were talking about elections, now, we have to wrap up, I guess, inside another 2-3 minutes.
No, that's okay.
Do you think this will have an impact on the elections? Do you think the poor people, because this is totally targeted at the poor people, do you think it will have an impact, saying that, listen, he's saying things like, I'll give unemployed youth 1 lakh and you'll be doing Facebook, I'll get that money will come to your account. Women, I'll be giving so much. Do you think the rural population, the uneducated part of the population, will fall for such rhetoric?
Well, if you look at the 2019 manifesto and agenda of Congress, they also mentioned 75,000 rupees per year to every family. They said that there is 45% unemployment, we will give Nyay. It didn't work out. Today, they have tried to package the same thing in a new avatar. They are trying to say that I will give that with Krantikari. He said Krantikari, decisions liye jayenge. But what happens eventually, I think they did this because they wanted this politics to go on, because initially Prime Minister of India, PM Modi ji, was actually doing the entire election campaign based on developmental models only, based on how India will become a $10 trillion economy. But I think then he got fed up because the negative politics being done by the opposition. So I think the counter narrative has now come. Now let me tell you this, So, frankly speaking, if you create an ecosystem like that where there is no jobs because you have killed the wealth creators, destroyed the wealth creators, and your entire economy is based on populism, eventually what happens? We have seen, terrorism would rise. Will Dalit actually benefit out of it? The biggest victims of communal violence have always been the Dalit Hindus, and that's a reality. If you look at Sandesh Khali model, what happened in Sandesh Khali? So you have, in the name of land redistribution, it was given. Most of the Sandesh Khali victims were Dalit Hindus. They got land as part of, say, land redistribution. But eventually, all of that will be controlled by whom? The likes of Shahjahan Sheikh with tacit support or direct support from a particular political party. So frankly speaking, one is that I think there's a credibility issue. And secondly, when you say I'm going to do a socio-economic survey, that is something, a lot of Dalit people, they may not have a lot of money in the bank. You would see a lot of people coming from other states like Bihar and Bengal coming and working in, say, Delhi or Bombay. And they might be staying in a one-room flat. But they all have land back home. The reason they cannot stay back is because there are no opportunities there. The moment you say, I will do a pan-India socio-economic survey, that means they are going to survey your land as well.
Yeah.
Now, that person may be earning, say, 15,000, 20,000 rupees in Delhi and having, a decent life, if not a luxurious life. But when you say your 5 bigha will be surveyed, and the Congress has done a lot of negative propaganda, so now there's a counter propaganda.
Yeah, it is bound to happen. The counter will come.
So that means your 5 bigha will be surveyed, and you would be said, okay, you have 5 bigha, keep 1 bigha, give the rest to the government, give the rest to the others. Why do you require 5 bigha? You will tell. So that is the thing that impacts them also, including jewelry.
Yes, that's a very important thing for Indians.
Yeah. You know how much jewelry is there in India in terms of personal wealth in the country? $1 trillion. In terms of personal ownership and the ownership of the temples. We have already seen our temple wealth is being used for other purposes. And that is a big controversy. So when they say socio-economic survey and redistribution, would Rahul Gandhi mention whether it would also include the Waqf properties? So it is one-sided happening. On one side you say, now he is not saying I'm going to do a socio-economic survey to find out how much the Shias have and how much the Sunnis have, how much the Barelvis have and how much the Deobandis have. Why are you not doing that? How much the Pasmanas have and how much the Ashrafis have. You're not going to getting into that thing. So you try to consolidate one community's vote and you want to divide the other community on caste lines, thinking that one would be divided, the other will be united. I think that kind of narrative today has become counterproductive. It has backfired for Congress. If there was a little inertia in the first round of election, then I think today, it is creating a lot of panic, as you rightly mentioned a little bit, in our conversation. It is creating panic, and because it has happened in the past. It has happened in the past. People had to pay 97% tax. People had to go for compulsory deposit scheme. It has happened. So now the choice is up to people. If they don't vote properly, there's a saying called "Sadiyon ne guna ki thi, lamhon ne guna ki thi, aur sadiyon ne saza pai." So it's up to people
will have to. Now let us see what kind of an impact all this talk that Rahul Gandhi has been making has on the people, especially on the poor people. The middle class, I know for certain, are very worried after this kind of conversation and the kind of assertions he has been making. But whether the BJP is able to counter that or not, we will know only on 4th of June.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just give one point, Joyeeta ji. It is like in 2019 when BJP won, initial presumption was that it's because of Balakot. But actually it's because the Labharthi community benefited from the schemes where 100% was given to them. So today you find people having a basic house, a basic toilet, having access to Mudra loan. They are not that, of course a certain section will be very much eager, but majority are not that hungry. They are looking for something else. So that is something we have to see. But whatever might be the electoral outcome, eventually a scheme like this is absolutely destructive. That is all I can say.
Yes, absolutely. No, that I totally agree with that. But what political implications and political repercussions this has, as I said, we will only get to know on 4th of June when the results come out. Thank you, Pathikrit, for joining on this show. And thank you, viewers, for watching. Until the next time. Thank you.